Hello and welcome back to Corby's puppetry course. This week we're going to be stringing up our marionettes. This week you will need your finished marionette, your little bag of gubbins, your bag of controls, some scissors, and your instructions may also come in handy. So before we start stringing our puppet, we have one final thing we need to do. We need to put a little bit of foam on the feet of our puppet. This is going to help the puppet when it walks. So inside your bag of gubbins, there is a foam strip. All you need to do is bring it up to your foot. We need a square on the heel and a square just below the toe. So bring that up and just cut some squares. And just a little one for the toe. And then when you have your 4 pieces, you can stick it onto the foot. So this is double-sided, so just peel off the backing and stick it onto the foot. It's very important with this piece that it doesn't go directly on the front. You need to move it back. You'll feel that it curves and then flattens out. So where the top of that is where you need to put the foam, as you need this little curve to help the foot move. And if you've got any bits overhanging, you can just trim this off with some scissors. Wonderful, now the foam's on, we can put the marionette to the side and move on to the controls. So let's have a look at what we've got inside. So you should have one main tube, a control for the legs, a control for the head, a control for the body, a control for the waist, and a washer, this little piece here, and some brass pegs. I would also get this white cord out of your gubbins bag. Let's start assembling our pieces. So if you have a look at this control rod here, you'll see that there's 2 holes. One of them is further to the side. So this is the front, this is the back, and then this hole here is for supporting the controls so you can hang it up, and this hole here is for hanging the body. So what I'd suggest doing first is tying a few knots with this white cord. And we're going to slide it through this one at the top. The pokey tool may help guide it through. What we need to do is turn this into a loop by tying a knot here, and then this will allow us to hang up the controls. I tend to make a little slip knot, so I just go around, up, through the loop, and then back through this little hole here. And with this slip knot, you'll be able to make the hole bigger and smaller. Cut off the excess. And we'll move on to our next piece. So again, tie a few knots in the end of this bit of string. And now we're going to go through this other hole. We need to make sure we're going from the top to the bottom. So make sure you enter on the same side as your loop is. And now you need to pick up this bar here. And you'll notice there's 3 holes, 2 bigger holes and 1 smaller one. We need to thread our cord through the smaller hole, and we're going to tie some knots to secure it. Doesn't matter how long this is. So you've got a little piece like this. So next we're going to grab these 2 pieces here. We're going to put our head control on the front, making sure the bar is pointing downwards. And we're going to put our waist control on the back, making sure that this hole is pointing downwards. Just like that. And now we're going to focus on this piece here, which is the leg and the hands. So reach inside your gubbins bag, and there's a little bolt with some nuts on it. You've got 2 different nuts here, and you can choose which one works best for you. You've got one here that you can tighten with your fingers, or you've got one here that will be much tighter, but you'll need a screwdriver and your pliers. So take off your nuts, and we're going to thread it through here. You'll notice on one side of the leg control there's a bit of plastic that protrudes from the circle. We need this to face us, and we're going to put this little washer on here where this plastic is. We're going to put the little plug on the back like this. So we just need to thread our bolt through, going through the washer first, then through the main control, making sure that this plastic bit is on the front, and then through our plug. And you can tighten this using one of the nuts. And now you can push this into the tube. And that's our control set up, so let's start stringing. So you have two different options when you're stringing your marionette. I would recommend you using your loop to hang it on something, and that means you've got two hands to string everything up. But if you do find it easier or you don't have anything to hang it on, you can just hold it in one of your hands. I've got a little bar above here that I'm going to hang mine to. Now it's very important to work out how long you want your strings to be. Now I like to perform with my arm outstretched like this. This is the most comfortable way of performing marionettes. And you've got two different options for this. You've got short string or long stringed marionettes. A short string marionette is great for performing on tables or surfaces, whereas a long string marionette is great if you want to be able to stand up and perform it on the floor. So have a think about what works best for you. When you're stringing this up, you want to have it in the correct place. So I'm going to stand up and I'm going to make a short stringed marionette. So I want my control about here. So I'm going to tie my marionette to this. So I've hung up my control, so let's get to work. First of all, we're going to string up the body so we can hang our puppet. So have a look in your gubbins bag and you should be left with some string. I'd also grab your fishing wire. You'll notice when you look at your marionette, there are a few small holes, which is where we need to put our string through. So for the body, it's this one here and this one here. So we're going to take some string and we're going to thread it through the hole. I find that cutting diagonally across the string helps thread it through. If you're struggling to get the string through, I'd just thread your fishing wire through first. Just make sure nothing's stuck in there. You can also use your pokey tool to help get the string in there. And then when you thread it through, tie a series of knots and then pull it tightly to make sure it's not going to fall through. And repeat this with the other string. You can also use tools like your pliers to help pull the string through. Now tie some more knots. And now we have two strings, we'll be able to pick up the puppet like that. What you'll need next are these pegs. So we're going to thread these strings into this bar here, one at a time. So pull it through, pull the other one through. You want to get it so that the strings are the same length so the marionette hangs. And then when I'm happy, I'm going to grab a peg and I'm going to push it into the slot. I'm going to push the peg into the slot and that will hold the string there. So push one in when you're happy and then level out the other one. So make sure that this bar is straight and that the puppet is hanging level. And then you can put your next peg in. And if you've got any leftover string, you can cut this off, but I'd leave a little bit of excess in case you want to make any adjustments later on. Now next up, we're going to string the head. So on the head, there's a hole here and a hole on the other side. So we need to pull a string all the way through. And then we're going to thread it to this bar here. This is all going to be one long string. So run the string through the head. Remember, you can use your fishing wire to clean anything out that might be stuck in there. To bring that through the head, make sure you've got a good amount on each side, and it's good to tie a couple of knots as close to the head as you can. So I've just tied a knot on either side of the head. So now we need to thread these two strings into the control here. So you need to pull these up so the head looks nice and level. And when you're happy, you can push the pegs in. So we've now strung up the body and the head, so we're going to move on to the waist. So the hole on the waist is here and it goes here through to here. And then again, tie a few knots on the end of your string. Pull it to make sure it won't slide through and snip off the edge. So we're going to pull this string through the control at the back. So thread it from the back through like that. You'll notice that as we pull this string, the back will go up like this. So we need to find the point where the marionette sits straight. So I'm going to pull it so the string has a little bit of slack. And when I'm happy, I'm going to put a peg through here. Now we're going to move on to the legs. The hole on the legs are in the little joint here. So push it through and let's tie our knots. Now these leg strings need to go to this control right at the front that can swivel. So bring your strings through. So what I do is hold this control level like this and pull one of the strings. You'll notice that the higher we do that, the higher the leg will go. So what I do is pull it extremely high up like this and then slowly lower it, watching your leg. And when the leg stops being pulled up, that is the perfect place to do it. So just before it goes slacks. And then when you're happy, put in your peg. And now repeat the process with your other leg. Now our final thing is the hands. Now these work a little bit differently to everything else. So they're going to be attached with one long string that's going to go from this hand up around this little mechanism at the front and then back down to this hand here. Make sure that your hands are outside of the leg strings. So I'm going to go through this hole here and I'm going to tie my knots on this side here. Now you need to take your string and bring it over this disc and then back down to the other hand. Now we're not going to tie our knot just yet. Again, pull the knot and you'll see that this one goes up. So we need to find a level where the hands sit equally, which for me is about here. And now you can tie your knots. And now our marionette is completely strung up, we have one final step. We need to insert this little plug. Now it just goes in this hole here. You'll notice that one side is flat and one side is curved. We want the flat side on the outside. Just gently push it in. And if you do ever need to get it back out, you can use a screwdriver. And there we go, our marionette is all strung up. If you do need to make any adjustments to any of these, you can use your pliers to pull out the peg. Make sure you join me next week where I'm going to teach you how to manipulate this puppet. And you can also join one of our Zoom sessions on Tuesdays 6 till 7 or Wednesdays 4 till 5, and I can help you out with this project or any of the other puppetry projects. So, I'll see you soon. Bye bye for now.